Hey, Jonathan, quick question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, were we able to get, I think Jared was trying to schedule, or there's Jared too, was trying to schedule a parking conversation around Club Hotel.
That's correct.
When do we think good old parking authority is going to be able to help us out here?
Yeah, sorry about the delay for that, Jonah. We're trying to set up a larger meeting with them as well. So we thought maybe we could piggyback off of that larger meeting, maybe start at your place, then move on. I don't have a great date though. John, do you have any ideas on that? Or maybe we can ask Ashley. She's popping on now.
Yeah, let me talk to Jessica about that. Ashley,
Okay.
we're talking about it on Friday and we can get that taken care of today, tomorrow, Jonah.
Yeah, just give me a date and I will do whatever I can to make it work for me.
Excellent. Yeah, I'd like to have it here fairly soon. So
Yeah, I would be excited about that.
okay. Sorry for the delay.
No worries.
Jonah, what's your availability the rest of this week and then early part of next week, just generally?
So, I mean, for me, tomorrow is just like zero things on my calendar. Usually Thursday afternoons, there's a couple kind of like performance reviews that we do weekly check-ins with our kind of director level stuff with the ball plant. But beyond that, realistically, there's not any big thing where Jonah needs to be present. That's what it comes down to. So it's very, yeah, there's really nothing else.
Okay, we'll try to get one scheduled later this week. I know Friday won't work for us. We've got another big commitment that day, but either later this week or first half of next week.
Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday is pretty good for me.
So Wednesday afternoon would be pretty good.
Easy peasy.
Okay, maybe that might be a decent date to shoot for. Let's we'll, as John mentioned, we'll check in with Interstate and hopefully Wednesday afternoon.
Fantastic.
Hey, well, welcome everybody. Jonathan, I was going to have you kick us off. You got anything new?
You know, Mayor, I don't today. Jared would like to present the security plan for the CODA, and we have that kind of on tap. I sent that out earlier today if you didn't,
Sure.
if you haven't seen it yet. Do you want to go through the roundtable first and have that piece first, or do you want to do the CODA discussion first?
Yeah, let's do the round table. And we'll start off with Chip. How are things there on the island? How's business going?
Oh, you're on mute, Chip.
Looks like he's underwater.
Yeah, that's because he's underwater.
Gurgle. Yeah, things are done. Yeah, volume was pretty similar last week as to what it was for last year and to the pre-pandemic. So yeah, things are moving along. Alex can attest more to the daily kind of things that are going on.
Oh, good. Good. I appreciate that. Mary Jane, or I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, we're pretty similar to last year here. We kind of had a slower Sunday on Easter yesterday, but that's usually typical for us, but things are looking pretty good.
I would, yeah, I appreciate that. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Or on our end, it says a Zoom user. I didn't realize it was you, but thank you. Mary Jane, hadn't seen you in a while. How are things going?
You haven't seen me because we're moving so fast.
Ah, I see.
No, the mill is doing wonderful. The mill is doing amazing tours this year and still continuing to hope for really good news on the funding side in the next few days.
Oh, well, good. Got our fingers crossed.
Thank you.
Hey, Kent, how's the world treating you? Sorry, Kent, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, thanks. Stuff's going well. Had a pretty slow week this week, but starting to pick up.
Oh, well, good. Maybe people will stock up after Easter. Sadie, how are things going for you?
Things are going well. We definitely noticed a little bit of drop this Easter weekend compared to last year Easter weekend. But again, Easter was a lot earlier last year. I think it kind of fell closer to spring break. So I think it was challenging to compare those numbers because we did have more of a lighter weekend than we've had in the past. But again, our March numbers are finalized and we are up over last year, almost 75% in March of last year over this year. So we've seen a significant amount of growth in March, which is typically one of our kind of slower months of the year.
Yeah, wow, that's quite a change. Thank you for sharing that. Stephanie, how's business? All right, I was just
There we go. Hi.
okay.
Business is good. We're getting ready for spring or summer, one or the other.
Well, good. So, good traffic there in the store.
Yeah, decent. Along with everybody else, Easter Sunday was a little bit slower, but the rest of the week was really good for us. So can't complain.
Excellent. Yeah, good to hear. Hey, Tracy, good to be on the call. Anything new there at the Historical Society?
No, just looking forward to a really busy summer, trying to get our staffing around. Based on what other people mentioned for trends, we're kind of in the same situation. We're in that little bit of a lull after Easter and awaiting rafting season with just a couple of ski resorts remaining open. And we are still seeing good traffic. I mean, today we've had a good flow of traffic in here. So I feel people are out and about and traveling now that we have this beautiful weather.
Oh, well, good. Very good to know. Jonah, how's business or how's your renovation going?
Hello. Sorry, I had to come off mute myself.
All right.
No, I think we're going to be targeting some inspections this week and next, which kind of sets us up on a timeline getting opened up here before the end of June.
All right.
So
all right.
lots of things to do.
Yeah, no, June is good. Absolutely. Look forward to that.
Yes, sir.
Steve, how's business?
Pretty good. Week over week from 2021, pretty much identical number. Over 2019, we're down 15%. So I'm not sure what happened in 2019. It was challenging weather in a lot of areas yesterday. It was super high winds in Denver, and this weekend actually had really, really good ski conditions. There was fresh snow at the skiers that are open in the mountains, but there wasn't very many skiers up to enjoy it. They're kind of done. So our numbers reflected that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can understand. TJ, how's business?
Excuse me. Kind of echoing everyone else. Easter was a little slower than expected. Brunch kicked off really well and then kind of declined throughout the day. But there's plenty of some fun specials left if anyone wants to come up to dinner tonight.
All right. Anybody have anything else before I go to Jared? Jared, please take us away.
All right, thank you very much, Mayor. So just a couple of things to update people on. So one, I did send out mostly to the liquor license holders last week, the security and operations plan in a draft format. So it did get a few comments back in regards to it. So I do appreciate those comments. Staff will be reviewing those here shortly. But the first thing that we want to do is this evening, we're going to have a work session with City Council. Anyone, especially from the business community, is welcome to sit in on that. But we're going to talk a little bit more about the CODA in general, why it's necessary, which we covered a little bit a few weeks ago, but go in a little more in depth. The City Council did not at that point in time when we first discussed it have a security plan. So we're going to go over the security plan in some more detail, discuss some of the calendar as well. City staff has worked with Sadie and a few others to put together a draft calendar of events. If I missed something on there, and I did send that out previously, but if I missed something on there, please feel free to let me know. All of this is intended to go back to City Council next Monday, hopefully for approval at that point in time. So I would like to get any more comments or dates on the calendar here this week, preferably before Thursday. So if anybody has something, they can always let me know. Oh, Sadie, you have your hand up.
I think my only question is I know we talked a little bit about this, and maybe Chief can speak to this as well, because we kind of talked about it in the special events meeting. In the days where it is saying for the, cornhole nights and the music nights and the days that are going to be the exemption days per block, the wording we put in there, or a security person designated by a smaller event. Now, what rises, the first question all of the business owners are asking is, what rises to the level of small event? And when are we going to need it? And when are we not? Because we have, we want to try to get this summer, I'm speaking with City Council tonight as well, just to be clear about what we would like to have on the market this summer. We're again in April and trying to book things and finalize things that are starting in the end of May and June. So the business owners are starting to ramp up and get busy again. So we're kind of wanting to know what rises to the level of needing security and what doesn't.
And Chief, if I may, I'll start off, and please feel free to add anything or disagree. I know we haven't had a lot of time to discuss it. I've been working a little bit more with the city attorney and some other city staff. So I don't want to catch the chief too off guard yet. But our thoughts for this point in time prior to the city council meeting tonight is that the block events would be something that we would probably work with the business owners to roll out some kind of standardized signs at the ends of those blocks. And those signs would state something to the effect of, outdoor events, this block only, no alcohol beyond this sign. Something in that mentality. And then the larger events that we see really needing security right now anyway are 4th of July, which we have extra people on hand for. There has been some discussion as to whether or not additional people do need to be present for the weekly cornhole, the weekly concert series. So I let the chief talk to that. I know that some of the staff have not, I guess we're hoping that there isn't the need for a lot more security, but it also might be a trial run too. We might have to see if things go pretty well, then we can continue. If we have some issues, then it might have to be revisited.
Yeah, I'll jump on that with Jared said. Hang on my radio. So my interpretation, everyone, is that we're headed down a path that's new for everybody. And I think with that, we want to have some flexibility. And I think certainly the city is open to being as flexible and trying to make this work. I think that we have to be careful to not sort of lock ourselves into a box, right? And so I think that starting with really clear, big signs that say that, no alcohol beyond this point in those specific areas, that's perfect. That's a great starting point. And as Jared said, I think that what we as a city are going to do is we're going to be evaluating to see how some of these events, what works and what's not working. So in my mind, it's hard for me to say a clear event or a clear number of people equate to now having to try to hire a private security or private people to monitor this, because I don't know if that's going to be necessary. That's just me laying it all out there for everybody, and this is going to be new for us to try this. And so, if we run into a situation where it's not feasible because it's sort of mayhem, then sure, there might be a little bit more restrictions that come into play. If you guys continue to do the great job you do as far as not over serving people, and then also policing yourselves a little bit. If you guys see someone carrying something somewhere and they're outside of that area, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, just let you know, you're really not supposed to have that down here. The police might harass you about that, and make us the bad guy. But I guess what I'm saying is we're kind of venturing into something new. It's going to be new for everybody. And I think starting with sort of the lowest level of security is the way to go, because I think it's just the way to go. It's the way to start, right? And then if we have to pivot and potentially do something a little bit differently, then we'll look at that. And certainly we would give everybody fair warning or an explanation as to why or what those concerns are, and vice versa. When we have these continued meetings, you guys can come back to me and say, hey, I saw this was going on over the week or the weekend, and maybe there's something we can do to help work with you. So I hope that answers the question. I feel like it's kind of a lawyer answer, and that I'm not going to give you a direct specific, but I think starting with the lowest level is the way to go. And then we as a really smart group and responsible group can find the right balance to how this is going to work. That's the best I can do, Sadie.
No, I think I was going to say, Jared and Nate, I think you guys hit all the points I think the business owners were going to ask about. So, having the signs, and then Jared, you would work with the city or the business owners to make sure the signs say everything we need them to say, and then the city would be providing the signs.
I believe that's the case. We haven't talked about exactly, I haven't gotten that far, but I believe that's our intent. We might be able to put some signs together and ask the businesses to, hey, can somebody run down to the other block when it's the Tuesday event? And so it takes a little less staff time because they are after hours events. So we might ask the businesses to help us out in that regard. Content wise, absolutely. We'll definitely work on that. Sure. So.
All right, sounds good. Any more questions for Jared?
One other item to bring up. I know a little while ago, Mr. Bob Bolin, had brought an idea to this group as well as the city council. I have heard that there is maybe interest here or there, but maybe in doing something a little different, a little smaller. If people are still interested, just let me know. I mentioned to Mr. Bolin that that we reach back out. So I don't need any answers now or anything like that. But if anyone is, feel free to reach out to me. So.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Jared. Andy, do you have anything before? Oh, sorry, Steve.
Just a couple details on this. So if someone's selling cans, and as far as the number 2 item of being labeled, that would, if we're selling cans, that's labeled. What if someone's selling like Butter Coors, do they have to put the business's label on there that they bought them at? And then, I assume so. And then as far as the joint liability to all liquor license members, you have an example of that? Like, how scary is that?
So, in regards to liability, I'd have to double check with the city attorney. In my opinion, though, we aren't changing any existing liquor license laws in that regard. So what we would do if there's a violation, and chief can jump in or anybody else, but I believe we would try to figure out where it stemmed from, have that discussion. If we get multiple offenses, then we might have to have a little bit different enforcement. And if we can't, find anybody, maybe we have the conversation with everybody in the area initially, and kind of gradually progress. I don't want, and I'm not the enforcement entity, but I don't really want to make it sound like, one item and it's doom and gloom. I don't think that's the intent. But yeah, it might result in, as the chief mentioned as well, that we reevaluate the procedures that are out there and see if they need to be bolstered if we do have a couple items. I know, as the chief mentioned, I'm feeling in the same boat. I don't have hard and fast answers, which I know is frustrating, but at the same time, I have a hope that things will, really kind of operate pretty smooth. And if not, then we're gonna have to reevaluate. But that's my aspiration anyway. I apologize, Steve, the first part of your question. Could you repeat that?
I think it's kind of obvious, just like if someone, first of all, if the can thing, selling cans, that suffices as a logoed vessel. But if someone else is selling cans that's not from their establishment, like if we're selling Coors Banquet cans, we have to put a Tommyknocker sticker on it, obviously.
I think that's fair, because I do know that, there are other locations that sell, alcohol from either places in town or from places out of town. If you're selling a can, I think you should have to put some form of sticker on it that states where it's from. Yeah. I see some other heads nodding, so yes, I believe that's a solid answer.
Hey, Dad, see your hands up.
Yeah, thank you. Excuse me. Long day yesterday, but my biggest concern about the branded cups is people refilling them on their own, and then us still being on the hook for that type of liability. I suggested that's why maybe we put a receipt or something with it, or you tell them, or you can tell that patron, hold on to this receipt because you might be asked to produce it. The idea, that would probably be very unlikely, but it would be another check on that type of consumption. What I was thinking right now, though, too, when it would be, if we could use our own labels, maybe you mark, okay, like it's a one beer on this date from this area. And if that would be acceptable, because I know having a receipt might get a little cumbersome there, or people might lose it. But that's always been my biggest concern with the branded cup, is that, okay, you go buy the cheapest drink somewhere, and then you go take it to the parking lot, fill it with whatever you want to, and then you're walking around.
Could, is it possible to, I know I've talked with a couple people about like a sticker or a branded cup. It'd be possible to have a marker and be able to mark it with the date at least.
I think the date, you can even number your stickers, you can write, then you keep the receipt behind your own counter with a number or a check number or something like that. Or even just a check number. We all have check numbers.
Okay.
That's something that you could easily prove.
Okay, because I am a little worried about, if I walk up to your establishment, purchase a drink, how often do I always keep the receipt really close by? So if it sounds like you might have some other ideas with the check numbers, et cetera, that if we could label the stickers or the cups and then have it correspond to your records, then maybe that's something that could
See, a
work.
check number would be the easiest, and we just get stickers with, and then write a check number on there. That covers all your bases, because we would be able to look that up on our end. Because, if you're selling someone a beer and all of a sudden they're walking around with a glass full of vodka, it's pretty easy then to identify that person was not in compliance.
Sure, this isn't Amber.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jonathan, I saw you had your hand up.
Thank you, TJ.
I think TJ basically said what I was going to say. I do think, yeah, that's it.
No, I appreciate that creative solution.
Good. Hey, Stephanie, I see your hands up.
Or unmute myself, that makes life easier. So I have a couple concerns with the CODA, and with it being whether it's on a block or on the full spectrum of it. And one is, even if we have signs on either side of the block that say you can't go past here, blah, 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 how do people understand that, yes, on this Tuesday, you were able to walk around with another cocktail from another place. However, now it's Monday and you can't do that same thing. I think it's very, very confusing for the guest. I think that, maybe if we just did it starting this year with the 4th of July, where we have extra security, that might be a good starting point. But to do it on every week, I think there's going to be some issues. And it's just growing pains, and I understand that, but I do think that there are going to be issues.
Yeah, I certainly understand that concern and can't say that I don't necessarily share it, but we've been, I guess that's the route that we're working on right now anyway. But it looks like we have a couple other hands up. Right.
Yeah, TJ.
Yeah, I mean, still my understanding that the reason we have to do the CODA is so we can keep service on the street in the first place, because of the existing expiring law. So if we don't do a CODA, we can't have drinks on the street at all, even in our zones.
Correct.
John can probably speak better than that, or you, Jared.
That is correct. We don't always have to expand it to the events. I think that's where Stephanie's concern came to, but you're correct. We absolutely have to do the CODA to have a similar summer operation.
Hey, Jonathan, see your hands up.
I wanted to concur with what Jared just said. The other thing is that with a CODA, you are not, it's for 2 or more businesses that want to participate. So for instance, if there were a business that doesn't want to participate, or if we're on a specific event, you don't want your liquor to be taken from your area, you don't necessarily have to allow that out of your establishment. What it does is it allows for those bands to occur and the cornhole tournament to occur within that block. But if you're not participating in that CODA, or for whatever reason, that specific thing you don't want to participate, you don't have to allow it outside of your area. So one of the things I also would like to say is that with this, we are iterating a little bit. Just as Chief said, this is a new thing and there are challenges, but I think we need to remember that there's always going to be challenges along the line with these things. And what we need to do is just make sure that we have some agility built into our system so that we can address concerns proactively as they happen. So, I think we have had a pretty good successful experiment with the bands last summer. I think that expanding this to those band areas will promote good, healthy practices and make sure that nobody's breaking the law inadvertently just by going to watch some music. And then we also have a really good opportunity on the 4th of July, as Stephanie said, to look at how this works on a global scale. So if you think about this in terms of this is the last step of our pilot program to see how these kinds of operations can occur safely on the marketplace, I think that what we can do is realize that we have some flexibility here. And, you know, Jared and our legal team have really worked really hard to make sure that there is some chance to, you know, play with this a little bit so we can iterate. But that's one of the things that we have done best over the last 3 years. And I just want to remind everybody, you guys have done a great job on this street, keeping it, you know, the heart of our community. And I think that this is a step that will continue our work and promote, you know, just safe practices in the future.
Thanks, Jonathan. I'm going to go to Ken.
I just wanted to say thanks to everybody at the city for putting so much work into this. Personally, I'm really excited about it. And I've owned a bar in a situation like this before with an open container on the street out front. And it's good to watch out for all of these little details. I appreciate y'all doing that, but I think it's going to be a great success. I'm excited about it.
All right. Appreciate that, Kent. And Sadie.
I think the one thing that we've really kind of worked to craft, especially the city and talking to the other liquor license holders, is last year, a couple of our pain points where we struggled were people on music nights and on cornhole nights not being able to be drinking their beverage and playing cornhole. So they had to step over the barrier, take a drink, go back over to the other side of the barrier, throw their bags. It became, we got a lot of negative feedback from the cornhole players about that concept. In fact, we ended up fighting more problems because people were then bringing their own alcohol to Minor to avoid having to step over and off the barriers. Whereas if they were allowed to be in the middle of the street throwing their bags, that was one thing. The other thing was on music nights where, you know, having the band where it was, it made it so that you couldn't even stand and dance or listen to the band in front of the music without, and really thinking about other businesses such as Two Brothers Deli, who has really suffered some regarding the marketplace and wanting to help them make that night a success for them by allowing them to serve because of their position on the street. You know, if they had to only allow people to drink in their barriers, people can't enjoy the music. But if they wanted to go out in front, then they could listen to the music better. So I think it was trying to do the best we could to meet some of our pain points as last year. And I, again, just want to appreciate all the city's hard work on doing our best to be creative. And I think Chief and Jared and everybody have said, as long as we're aware and paying attention and, you know, I think on cornhole nights specifically, Mike, who's the cornhole manager, if he hasn't been around to talk to you, I'm sure he will be. You guys know how excited he is, really excited about this, and he's going to take it so seriously because he knows that it's going to be successful for his business side of the thing. So he's really committing to helping manage it, at least on cornhole nights. So, you know, on music nights, you know, I don't know. Obviously, we all are going to be paying closer attention. So I think just being aware and keeping the conversation open is really important.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sadie. I'm going to go to Chip.
As far as TJ's idea, as far as the, you know, putting down the cash register receipt number on the cup and that, I just see that could be pretty difficult to do. I could just see, you know, having several orders at the bartender and he's got to sit there and write down the check number. I think that could be a little challenging. That there could be another way of doing it.
All right. Thanks, Chip. Anyone else? I don't see any more hands up. Annie, do you have anything?
No, I don't think so. Just a reminder that City Council will be discussing this topic tonight, the security plan and the common area, and it goes to council for approval next Monday. So we're really trying to make sure that council has a good understanding of how this is going to work tonight in preparation for the consideration of approval next Monday. So that's at 6 o'clock. You can come in person or you can watch online. We have both those options available. And also, it was mentioned that Sadie will be giving an update as well to council from the ISMA about things that are planned for the summer.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. DJ, I see your hands up.
Yeah, just one last thing, to kind of Chip's point. I feel like the way that it's written now, in the security plan, it allows for some leeway on how you want to identify your cup. Is that correct? So that businesses could make that decision if they just want to do something branded, or if they wanted, let's say we wanted to do an extra step, we could, without having to make everyone do it.
Yeah, as of right now, in some of the conversations we've had, we understand that branded cups aren't, the cheapest item on the planet, and it might be easier to place a sticker on the cup. Of course, there's potential for that to be abused too, but it's hard for us to legislate for everything, but we do think that would be at least a means of trying to address it. So at this point in time, we have in the security plan kept it pretty broad and talked about those two items. And TJ, I think you're correct. If you do want to take that extra step for the businesses kind of due diligence, not a problem. As it's written right now, it is not a requirement to do that extra step. If we have enough people that want to, we could build something like that in, but we have not at this point.
I mean, I don't want to build something like that if someone else doesn't want to do something like that. I'm just looking out for our own liability. So I wouldn't want to make it, anything universal. If people want to deal with this how they want to. I just want to make sure that how it's written right now, it seems to me that you can do that.
That's a good distinction. Thank you. Going to go to Sadie.
I just wanted to update the people on the call that the chamber and the ISMA have officially voted now to merge together. We're going to be entering into an MOU within the next couple of weeks. The ISMA is having a meeting, and we're now a committee of the chamber. So we're under the Chamber of Commerce as a committee. We'll be having our committee meeting tomorrow. We'll be talking about the updates from the city council work session, as well as updates on that merger, as well as the activation of Minor for the season. So if you're interested, that's at 4 p.m. at Tommy Knockers tomorrow. You do not have to be an ISMA member to join, but now again, the ISMA and the chamber are officially joined as one. We'll be executing our MOU within the next week or so to finalize those final last little bits of pieces. But I wanted to share that update as well.
All right, good to know. Anything else? Anything else on anybody's mind? Chip?
Any updates on the parking garage?
So,
Well, go ahead.
okay. I can chat about this a little bit, but anybody else can jump in too. We are certainly still working with CDOT and some engineering consultants as well on the parking garage. We are going to, I guess it's proposed, hasn't been finalized yet, but we're looking into starting some engineering studies of the area to position us even better for applications to additional grants. But yeah, we're looking yet at alternatives and looking at pursuing some, especially some federal grants that are coming out here in the near future. The funding with CDOT is phenomenal. We are still, as I mentioned, we're also working on the match yet, but if we could do an even bigger project that would tackle some other items, we might have this kind of very seldomly seen opportunity in the federal infrastructure grant or federal infrastructure program to pursue something even bigger. So that is what we're looking into.
Yeah, thanks, Jared. And in case you were not aware, City Council did approve of the funds being set aside into an enterprise zone, and that's the funds from parking. And of course, with the parking structure, there'd be a couple hundred more spaces contributing. So it's nice to formally set that money aside, and it was unanimous, by the way. And that would make it a lot more productive. It'd be a lot easier, for example, for the city to float bonds. So I think that was a big step that's happened in the last couple of weeks that we really needed to take. Wonder, did you have anything?
Thank you, Mayor. I do not.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else on anybody's mind before I sign off? Well, I just want to thank everybody. Good to see you, and we'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.
Everybody.
Hey there, friend. I was like, well, they're gonna sit there.
Kicked
They
Stephanie
always
out. I was
say-
like, I'm not trying to be mean, but I don't know what we're doing right now.
Well, it's funny because you normally hit end meeting, which like forces the shutdown for so many people. Anyway, I just want to make sure I'm well prepared for this evening. I'm gonna bring that sheet that I sent to you.
We put the just events piece, so just a little bit of what's happening kind of deal in there. So they'll have a little bit of knowledge about it. And I think that'll be good because then they'll at least see what the events are. I would imagine John Curtis is going to have some sort of question about kind of whys, but not in a bad way. He just isn't very good at framing the questions. They always sound awkward. But I think his intention, like if we just need to talk about what we've talked about, and I think it's going to be fine. Kate heard that whole conversation. I have a feeling she's going to try to bring that into her city council talking about CODA tonight. So we'll see how that goes.
She and I had a really good conversation about it over the weekend. So I think she should be pretty positive overall. She and I had some really good talks about it and it benefiting. And then that's why I asked for those sales tax numbers, just to reference that. I also referenced, I brought reference to I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different articles that have been published in travel blogs and travel magazines and different traveling videos that reference the Minor Street Market and what we're doing in the summer as a draw. So I have that whole spreadsheet thing, or that whole thing that I sent to you. Is there anything else I should be prepared to kind of talk about or answer questions on?
No, I think, just mentioning that this is community driven as well. It's tourism facing, but community driven, or however you want to say that.
Yeah.
And we're trying to build community events. I think especially Halloween stuff was so successful last year that that's a very clear and evident thing. With the marketplace, I bet we're going to hear somebody say something about parking, but literally it's like 45 spaces. It's not that big of a deal. And I think
you can speak to sales. I mean, we grew, we lost parking spots, but we grew in sales tax revenue.
Right.
So
I think that's fair. I think we can, and I'll send you that so you have it. I don't think that, I think that the parking argument too, the other thing is that the 50 spaces we get from the marketplace aren't dramatically going to change anything for us. They just don't.
And what makes more of a dramatic change is having a safe place for our residents, kids, animals, and community to come and play. I mean, the summer is full of kids running around with their sidewalk chalk and their bubbles, and the parents can sit on the patio and relax while their kids play more freely. I mean, it's a huge benefit gained versus, plus, I mean, the dog friendliness of it, all
This
that.
is a really
And
good
then,
community centered, like just as a community center. That's what it is.
yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, you think about it, it's the host of the graduation parade, giving a spot where people can sit on Minor and enjoy the graduation parade. Same thing for, you know, the Halloween situation. Same thing for, it could be used as more of a community activated space in the future. You know, again, this is where I wanted to ask your advice, you know, like I was reading back to my emails from last year. I'm essentially repeating the same exact thing that I had to go through last year, which is proclivative from being able to just have a plan and execute it, and already would have been done. And now I'm in the same exact boat as I was last year, the end of April, beginning of May, with not having any plan, permission.
You're not asking for permission though, this time.
No.
That's one difference. So that is, I agree with you, but this time we're not asking for permission because they've already given their permission. So yes, they could always shut us down. But I think one of the really important things for me that's kind of tangential to this conversation is I am asking for permission for you in perpetuity to batch process applications. So we do it just like we've talked about. And so that is a part of this conversation as well. This kind of gets to the rec center too. So I talked to Andy briefly. The problem is this needs to go, there's like problems, but you know, always, but it needs to go through legal review if we can do the same process at the rec center. And it's a little bit more challenging for them than it is for Marketplace, but I think it could still potentially happen. But either way, I think what we're trying to do is just tell them this is what's going to be happening, and then talk about why it's important for us to handle programming for the Marketplace differently than a special event. This is not a special event.
No.
There may be special events associated with this, but it is not in of itself a special event.
Right, exactly. Like, and I think that that's the important designation, is that, you know, this is, you know, an activation plan for a space that is co-sponsored with the city. So the businesses are, you know, and just a frank question, is there any chance of getting any money out of the city this year at all?
It's all encumbered is the problem. I have my community promotions money and I have a little bit of money, but it's not going to be big money.
Like, how much is, like, could we maybe, and like 4th of July, we'll spend a little bit.
Well, we got to figure out that stupid stage situation. Andy told me that I should just try to make the deal with to get the stage from up there.
Central.
Yeah. I always forget if it's Central Stage or Blackhawk Stage.
It's Central Stage. Blackhawk is running it for our Founders Day thing.
So, okay, in the community promotion budget, I have 173,000. Oh, wait, no, sorry. Why is it only extended? There's $173,000 in community promotion, but 32,000 of that is 4th of July. So we have to take the stage out there and have to see what else we can get. And then there's like maintenance. This is where this budget's going to live once we get the budget for ISMA. So it could make sense, but there's like K-Goat annual fee in there, mayor and commissioner awards, tree lighting. There's $1,000 for tree lighting, which we could probably have if we figure out the tree lighting event. And then I've got beautification budget, $9,000. I think I'm only using 8,000 of that. Holiday decorating, I've got at 18,000, which we might have a little room in there, but it's not going to be very much.
Okay.
But the other thing is, we could ask, I mean, if you ask and say we could, you know, we need a budget for XYZ, it may work. It's just Andy's going to have to do some gymnastics to figure it out potentially. But that would be what I would say is, if you want to do that, I think we should have a talk with Andy and see what may be available, so that when you go to council, there's no big, you know, like moment or whatever. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, I won't bring up money at all tonight. I'm just going to talk about activation. I'm going to talk about the calendar and, you know, why it is the way it is, why we're going to do things the way we're doing them, and then hear their feedback. The open The open items for discussion that we want city council's approval and / feedback on are allowing outside vendors on minor. I have a list of business feedback for that, and then the city's feedback on Wild Bunch. So those are the two items that
Critical items.
are the critical ones. Everything else is a repeat of what we've done last year with a little bit of expanding. You know, instead of doing Saturdays in the park for the chamber, we're doing like a kids Saturday or Sunday that's going to be community focused with community nonprofits, such as doing the rail jam, that kind of stuff.
Well, then if it comes up about how we're going to handle things, what I think the key thing is for those events is that you'll work with the clerk staff. If something requires more paperwork, we'll ensure that it's completed. Like, that's all we have to
Well,
say.
and I think, I mean, my goal was when you and I looked over this, the things that we feel like we need a special event permit for will be for 4th of July, just because of the extra activation happening in Citizens Park. So when I submit my minor street market activation plan, which is what I'm calling it, when I submit the finalized minor street market activation plan, in that plan will include any paperwork that the city staff the clerk staff has deemed necessary that rises to the level of special event.
I'd almost say, hold on one second. Hello. No, he just might have walked out of his office like 2 seconds ago. Oh. Okay, sounds good. Bye. That rafting guy is it's not going well.
I know, he called me this morning. He was on my list.
He's doing terrible. Like, it's just, he's not doing what he needs to do to make this happen.
He's getting his traffic study today.
Late, I think.
Yeah, it has to be done today. So he's paying to have his traffic study done today. And then he was asking me, totally off subject. He was like, well, he's like, you know, I want to do the rafting out of there. He's like, and we also want to do the bike rental out of there as well.
Breaking city law for like the entire time he's been here. And he admitted it, and it's going to make it challenging. It almost where he takes the boat out, which is a huge environmental issue that we don't necessarily even have purview over. And it's been a problem. And he kind of like said he's going to continue doing it as well. And that's like going to be a problem as well. So I'm hopeful, like, I think it could be really cool. And I would love to have bike rental place there for sure. But he didn't do what he needed to do when he needed to do it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I was like, well, I'll talk to them. I was like, but he was mainly asking that if he wanted to do both the rafting and the bike rental, did he need 2 traffic studies or 1 traffic study? And I was like, you need to ask Jared.
Yeah, he definitely would need to show parking for both businesses though. And like, that's where he hasn't given, like, it's literally his whole application's incomplete and it's going on Wednesday, which is not great. So.
Yeah. Great. Well,
he's also been threatening us the entire time, which has not been incredibly pleasant. So it's just like, just chill out. Like, we don't care if your business moves to Salida. It literally doesn't affect us. Like, we just want you, if you want to be here, we want to promote you, and we're trying, but it's just like, he doesn't want to give the stuff he needs to give. So
that's great. Yeah, I basically told him I was like, all I can really tell you to do is do your due diligence and talk to the city. Be
well, then
kind.
he got Santiago all mad too, and Santiago's like, I don't want that in my building if it's going to change stuff. And I was like, well, I'm not going to help you piss off Santiago at this point. Like, that's not a thing that's going to happen. So, you know, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, it'll work out.
Yeah.
It will work out or it won't. So anyway, I'm calling this the Minor Street Market Activation Plan. And essentially my goal is to say, if anything that the city staff and I have been in constant conversation, and that upon final submitting or approval of, not need approval, but upon final submitting of the Minor Street Activation Plan, I will have any paperwork that the
Oh, that's what I was
city
saying, is
staff.
maybe what you do is say that you'd like to set up a meeting with Patty and me. And potentially Wonder if she can. Wonder's gonna sign off on stuff, but she's not gonna be involved in this process. So maybe you say like that, I'd be kind of preemptively, I would like to meet with Patty and John and go through this and make sure that we get any additional paperwork that's required if we do this batch processing thing so we can complete it. There's things happening that I can't talk very loud right now, so.
Okay.
But this is something that needs to get. I think that would help if we just said, we're gonna meet with Patty and we'll make sure that we have all the requirements for everything. Even if we're not using the special events application, but we will make sure that all the proper things are there, insurance, everything that you would typically see will be there. And if you and I sit down with Patty for like 45 minutes or whatever and just go through it, and then she can just say, let's get X, Y, Z, I think it will take care of everything from the council perspective. And one thing that we're learning is that policy of council is what matters. So that's a good thing. So
Yeah, it is. So then again, the only things in here that I'm gonna want, that I'm going to council asking for their feedback / decision on is allowing outside vendors on minor and the Wild Bunch. Other than that, everything else is kind of exactly as last year. Kind of presented as activation.
yeah, I think so. And then just committing to that meeting with Patty before council can even ask a question. Like what I would like to do is avoid any questions from them that are meaningful. That would lead them to say, let's delay stuff. Like, I just want to be like, let's just handle it. And then it'll, we're gonna meet with Patty. Everything's gonna be cool. And then it's gonna be a great summer and you guys are all gonna think it's awesome. And I think that should be it. And then, like saying the community driven piece, I think that's really important. The intention is not, I think it may possibly come up beforehand, but we're not building a drinking. We're not trying to be, New Orleans here. We're just trying to have a good experience like we have. And we're iterating, we're keeping things safe and keeping people protected and all that. I think that's the whole thing with the CODA too. It's about protecting people. It's not about wildness.
Well, no, and like last year, we were violating the law a lot.
Mm-hmm. And this will take care of it.
Like this puts us in a position where we're not violating the law constantly. So that's a huge difference. So, okay, well, I will definitely frame my conversation that way and I'll be there it's at 6, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's an executive session at 5:30, so it might be potentially a tiny bit late. But I think that is pretty
close at 6. Okay, cool. Well, I'll be there at 6. And then you said that you included like the basic dates of things, like the event dates in their packet. Should I print anything for them or should I just?
They have, well, between Jared too has all this stuff like that is CODA related. He's got like a calendar in there about that.
Yeah.
And then, okay, Carmen. Okay, yeah, so they have just that first page. It just says, close the traffic on May 19th, that one with the stuff. Okay, so one thing in here, the other thing that might come up is like, how do we coordinate with special events that are happening downtown? Like for instance, burro racing, or if we have, the half marathon thing. And I would think that the answer to that is just we'll coordinate with them. And maybe it could be as simple as Patty just tells you when there's an event and then we coordinate to make it right.
Yeah, again, I think that's the beautiful part about having, again, one centralized information for what's happening on minor is that then people know who to ask. So that would be a perfect segue in saying, Patty and I would like to request a meeting with Patty and John so that we can really coordinate how the Minor Street can host and be a part of any events that happen in the downtown district.
You might consider asking for another work session during budget season to facilitate whether or not a budget request to city for ISMA chamber marketplace operations would be feasible. like something like along those lines, and say that you think that there's a big opportunity there for community promotions or something like along, you know what I'm saying, along those lines. It might be a good
Right.
opportunity just to put that in their head.
Okay. Yeah, for this season instead of the one that we're gonna do for next year.
Yeah, and we could also, I mean, you could ask for this year money and then for the next year one too, just say, you know, we could use some funding to make, you know, just to sell it a little bit or whatever. Oh, and
Well,
then I
more
think
than
the other thing is promoting, you could say something, it may not be 100% true, but something about promoting responsible tourism so we don't get overloaded. And I realize it's kind of a weird argument, but like, I think they will resonate with them. Like if we're saying we're trying to create a good experience and target areas where we do want our visitors to be, I think that could go a long way too.
Well, it also gives, you know, while our restaurants in the summers have been experiencing long wait times, it gives the visitors something to do while they're waiting. It provides, again, you know, longer stay times, more spread out stay times, activation on the shoulders, you know, where there's
Right.
stuff happening in May, stuff happening in September, stuff happening in October, to kind of spread that out a little bit more, you know?
Yeah, I think that's good. And I think that message too, we're trying to target more, our events are typically held on times when it's not as busy or something
Yeah.
along those lines.
Oh, yeah. Well, and our, you know, the activation is also on times where town is not that busy and when it can benefit our local residents. You know, Tuesday and Thursday nights, specifically music nights on Minor, is specifically targeted to our residents and community.
Okay, I think that sounds good.
Okay.
I think those are the right messages. And again, this isn't asking for permission, so not
No.
posting it in that way. The only thing we're really asking is to not treat this like a special event. That's the only. And then Wonder, if they try to talk to Wonder about this, that's where I'm not worried about that, but I do think that that is where preemptively saying we'll have a meeting and we will make sure that all the information is there and functional is good. But again, that's not going to be an application. We're not asking to fill out. We're not asking, we're saying this is what we'd like to do, council, not staff.
Yeah.
I really want to make that distinction here. Like, I think it's really important. And I'll help with that too.
Great. I will talk when you tell me to talk.
We're, you know, about our challenges that we've been having.
I do. I do know all about.
I'm having like this, like, you know, in my heart thing, I want to collaborate all the time, and that's always good. But at some point, like, somebody has to be in charge, you know what I mean? And like make a decision. And I think we're getting to the point that we need to have a conversation about what that looks like, and maybe be more forceful than I thought we would need to be. Like, I kind of was hoping that we'd kind of get on the same train. I just think it's going to be a little bit of a thing. So we're getting close to hard conversation time. So,
Yeah, again, you know, our community has changed a lot in the course of COVID. It really has, you know, really transformed our community in a lot of ways, and there are changes that need to take place.
yeah. And collaboration is great if we can come to a consensus, but we need to put the community first. It needs the community first, and then build our response off that. And if that requires me to not be the kind of person I typically, I'm just hoping I can do it in the right way, is all I guess I'm telling you. I know you understand managing. is
You
hard
know,
sometimes.
I'm sure. I think that there's a lot of, you're very good at expressing things in a way that it's like, you know, there's a reason I'm talking the way I'm talking. There's a reason that this needs to be done the way
Yeah.
it needs to be done. You know, this is not for no reason.
Yeah. And talking is great until, you know, opinions all matter, but at some
Only
point.
so
we-
much till it's just,
Yeah.
I mean, you know me, we're sitting here in April and I still, like, people are like, can I book music? Can I book music? And I'm like, not yet. Not yet.
Well, hopefully after tonight,
No.
we're done with that, and then we can get it through. And then we'll schedule that meeting with Patty, like whenever works for you, basically, and get it done. And
Well,
then,
in the meeting with Patty, I think the only things like I want clear definition on, you know, are the outside vendors and the Wild Bunch. And then, you know, other than that, if there's anything else on the list that they see concern on, but everything else, like, you know, you and I have talked about it. You've talked to Patty and Wonder about it. You know, I feel like everything else falls within the, you know, Minor Street activation
Patty is generally
bundle.
okay with. I think Patty and Wonder are basically, I mean, they basically are okay with this. So I do
Yeah.
think one thing to be aware of is Kate Collier Wild Bunch anti-gun thing. And I don't know that there's anything you can do about that. But
No.
say they're safe, good guys, and they've been doing it forever, basically.
Yeah, they're safe, good guys, been doing it forever. We had good feedback to them last year. We did get some, again, the problem, I would love that the Wild Bunch guys would just be willing to come down and like take pictures and walk around. They just don't want to do that,
I hear you. I get it.
They
I've
want,
met,
they're theater guys. They want to do their reenactments.
well, and
That's-
it's important to them. That's like a piece of their culture and history. And
It
I,
is, yeah.
I do think we could handle the parking situation we talked about. So I do have an idea to improve that so we don't have a come and go situation. So
Yeah.
I don't really know that it's worth going into what happened at come and go because it sounds worse than it was. But I do think we could improve upon what happened last summer and make it more theatrical. So it's very clear it's theatrical, like at all times. So
Yeah.
But that, that's kind of like a, do we really want to open the can of worms of what, the SWAT call and the whole bit? So
Yeah.
probably not.
I mean, if they bring up questions about it, again, last year we had a successful season with them. I mean, maybe it's that they only come twice in the summer, once around 4th of July and once at the end of the season. Maybe it's not once a month, or whatever it
Right.
is. Like, they'll be good with whatever. I get their perspective, the Wild Bunch guys. And I mean, I emailed all the business owners again today to get like feedback on vendors, and not one person had a no against it. Everybody said yes, as long as they are not in direct competition with any business on Minor.
Okay. So what about Royal Jelly? Does that?
She's not in direct competition with Edelweiss, I don't think. They're very different. It's very different. And Larry's fine with it, as long as, obviously, he was like, as long as she's not right in front of my shop.
Well, maybe that's like one thing we could do is like, if it is something that we're questioning about, we'll just get a letter or something or contact that people.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's cool.
Yeah, they're basically, Royal Jelly does like bread and all that stuff. Like nobody on Minor does that, and stuff like that. So, and the fruit and veggie guy, like, he's already open off 6 and, by Johnny Z's. He's like, of course, I'll still come and put a trailer up if that's what you guys want. Like, I want to be there,
Well, let's get that
So-
part. We'll get everything. So that's the other thing is we may have to push them to get direction. So if you feel like we haven't got direction on one of these things, and I haven't asked specifically, like if you interject, that's always good, because better than like leaving it nebulous. So like if we have one of these that isn't quite clear, we just got to make sure we push them to give us actual direction.
Okay,
So that should be
I
good.
will do that, and then I will be ready with everything and all that.
Okay, cool. Well, this will be good. I think it's actually going to be totally fine. I just want to head off things at the pass if possible.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't
Yeah.
want this to turn into a referendum on if drinking is moral or not. Like, that's not the point. So,
No, it's not. And
Okay.
again, it's, to be clear, and I think the point that hopefully will be really clear to council tonight is that if we don't do the CODA with the security plan the way that it is, then you cannot have any outdoor dining
I
on
think we
Minor.
kind of risk like people leaving town if we don't have it. Like they're at this point coming to see it. Like everybody says that online all the time. And if it's not here, it's just going to be, why stay maybe? So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it adds a huge, again, that's where we can talk about how many articles we've been featured in, how much attraction it's drawn to our community, how it's shown that we can be flexible, and we're working on economic recovery as our restaurants were the most heavily impacted by COVID. And this benefits their economic growth and recovery the most because they were the ones most heavily impacted by it.
Well, Steve said he's still down over 19, which kind of implies that the recovery hasn't completely happened yet. So we're doing better, but we're not there.
No, and exactly. And in the summer months with the market that is adding to their ability to recover more.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe we can also touch base with Lindsay at some place in the near future and just try to like, I don't know what your status is with her, but if that goes through, I think her business is gonna be a lot better, like just because people are gonna come for you.
Yeah, she and I have had a couple of really good conversations. We're still in the works. My big thing is I can't sublease.
Oh, for your franchise agreement?
Nope. So she asked Dan if he'd be willing to revise the leases and lease the space to me.
It seems in Dan's best interest, honestly.
She says he's open to it. So we're gonna set a meeting next week to talk about it. So
I set that meeting for the SID finance thing that we're trying to do specifically because it worked for Dan Ebert's schedule. Like nobody else's schedule it worked for but Dan Ebert. Randy even like is coming to the meeting, which I thought was cool because he's been kind of like tough on it. And Dan declined the meeting. Like it was his time that he said, and he declined it. And I'm like, what the hell? Like
did
seriously.
you reply to it?
No, because I don't know what to say because I'm like, I don't know, I don't want to get him all touchy, but like,
I would reply and be like, hey, Dan, I thought you were able to come to this meeting. We picked this time specifically for you. I would really like your input and feedback.
almost I'm like to the point where I'm like, whatever, Dan, like if you don't want to come, then don't come, but don't make us like hold all these meetings for you.
Right, exactly. Like, don't be such a
Yeah,
jerk
I'd rather
about
just go
it.
to the greater ISMA group and be like, look, this is where we're sitting right now. Like
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, I will see you tonight at 6.
sounds good.